Hi, folks. You just heard Ganesh kind of clearly setting the context of why we believe there's a huge opportunity for us in the insurance vertical. And he kind of defined to you what the digital insurer is all about. What is he looking at, right from strategy to customer centricity to process to people to actually using technology to bring about transformation in the insurance segment. And I think all digital insurers, or all insurers for that matter, are looking at leveraging digital to the fullest in terms of transforming themselves as an organization, transforming their business, transforming their customer experience, their operations, and in many cases also changing the business model itself. So, having heard Ganesh in terms of how digital is transforming the insurance segment, just wanted to spend a few minutes on what are the insurance business drivers that are really that are really driving this whole vertical. One is this whole area where all insurers are really looking at accelerating new customer acquisition. And when I say acceleration of new customer acquisition, it's just not about using a single channel, which is earlier days, they had, so for example, from a life insurance standpoint, brokers were there, or the agents were their main channel in terms of acquiring new business from prospective customers. But today we see that there are multiple channels available where the customer can interact with the insurer or the insurance company to buy their products and services. So you have the web channel, you have the banks who are also providing digital insurance products and services. You have other digital channels like mobile applications through which the customer can interact with the insurer, and really the whole objective there is how do we ensure from an enterprise standpoint that we give a consistent and seamless experience to the consumer or to the customer who's interacted with the insurance organization, irrespective of which channel he interacts through. So that's one area that's clearly a business driver, that how do I bring in seamless customer experience for my prospective consumer and customer. The other area obviously is how do we introduce new products and new services from an insurer standpoint into the market based on customer requirements. How do we quickly underwrite and bring those products into the market? And of course, not to forget the fact that one is bringing in new customers, the other is how do we retain our existing customers? Because one of the things that we all know that in the insurance segment, there are the interaction with the customer typically happens twice a year. Once probably when he buys the product, and then the second is when he renews the policy, right? Or renews that product or goes into a new product. So given the fact these are limited interactions, there is always this chance of losing the customer because for various reasons, right? He just decides to say he doesn't want to renew the policy, or he probably has a different option for investment, or wants to look at a different insurance product. So retaining existing customers is very critical. And last but not the least, as I talked about, across all these areas, whether it is new customer acquisition, retaining existing customers, providing a seamless experience for claims processing, end of the day, customer experience is overarching. And how do we ensure continuous, consistent experience across multiple touch points and channels for the prospects and customers who are dealing with the insurance organization will continue to be a key business driver for all insurance companies. Having said that, what does Fulcrum bring to the table in terms of its house of insurance? Right? And if you look at the picture in front of you, what we are really saying is we want to really come into it, engage with an organization across multiple fronts. One is clearly help organizations understand where are they in this whole journey of digital transformation, right? By really telling them, giving by doing an assessment, which is saying that here is where I am in this entire journey. In the sense, have I just started the digital journey? Have I gone a little ahead in terms of exploring multiple options in the digital journey? And have I reached a stage of maturity? I will talk about it a little more in detail in the next few slides about what we really mean by digital maturity assessment and how is it that we will help in this whole process as an organization. The second area that I just talked about, which is a key business driver, is how do we transform customer experience for these insurance companies, right? And we are really talking about trying to understand what are the current customer pain points, what is the current customer journey look like, or what is the customer journey for the current set of prospects and customers. Are they really getting the experience that they want across multiple channels? Is the experience consistent, right? So how do we help organizations reimagine their customer journeys, bring about the new experience that can be powered by digital is what is one very clear opportunity area that we need to tap into. So it is not only about consulting and designing these experiences and reimagining these customer journeys, but it's also about how can we help them implement those customer journeys and deliver that experience that each individual is looking at. The next block that you can see is most insurance companies have their own insurance legacy systems, their core systems. Some of them are fairly old mainframe-based systems, while some are some of the new insurance platforms that have come into existence, core insurance platforms like Guidewire, like Duck Creek, and so on and so forth. I think there's a huge opportunity in terms of looking at these systems, as in, is there a need to modernize these systems, re-architect these legacy systems, or even replace them with new insurance product platforms, right? And while one element I wanted to also emphasize, which probably goes with the whole customer experience as well as the re-architecting piece, is all of this, whether we are looking at customer experience and we are looking at reimagining customer experience, I think the important thing to understand is what do we need to do to enable this experience. Therefore, there is an opportunity to also redesign and optimize the business processes that will power this experience. So that's another very specific opportunity that we need to look at and a service that we can take to that segment. So the same business process optimization will not only help us reimagine new customer experiences, but it will also help the organization to relook at their technology landscape, whether the current landscape is supporting them, does it need to be re-architected, does it need to be replaced. And here is where we can, as Fulcrum, come and do multiple things. One is, while many of them may have their core platforms in place, we can really help them in terms of integrating those core platforms with other systems, which is what they would like to do as they expand their landscape or expand their digital footprint. The other is, how can we bring in innovative solutions that could sit on top of these core platforms using our Fulcrum lab, for example, which is really the lab where we are constantly looking at innovating or bringing in innovative solutions, creating innovative solutions which can be monetized and which can be delivered to customers, where we can deliver greater value. And this is where we can even use this entity to help build solutions on top of these core platforms. And finally, one of our strategic, you can say, weapons in terms of really helping us accelerate solutions, development of solutions, deployment of solutions, whether these solutions are sitting on top of a core platform or whether we are creating separate digital solutions, is really the Fulcrum One platform that we are already creating, and happy to say that it's already taking shape. So Fulcrum One can be used to enhance the current landscape, can be used to accelerate in terms of deploying more solutions in the insurance technology ecosystem. And then, of course, we are saying there is a core platform, and then there is this whole digital innovative solutions that come into play. One of the things that I just, for example, is we find that there's a lot of fraud that happens in the insurance world, especially when it comes to insurance claim, right? And when you look at claims data or the claimant and the network analysis, all of this data can actually be used and analyzed using big data and analytics to really figure out where is the fraud happening and how can we prevent these frauds from happening. And clearly, we are talking about saving close to 3 to 4% in when it comes to claim expenses, right? And that's a huge saving. So fraud detection using big data analytics is clearly one digital insurance solution that many insurance companies are looking at adopting. And there are many more that point solutions that can be, which we will talk about later, which can be taken to these insurance companies. Finally, we are also saying that every insurance organization, be it life or PNC, has a fairly strong IT landscape that they have been managing and evolving over a period of time, internally and maybe through by extending to their service providers and vendors. And that's again a huge opportunity where organizations are looking at outsourcing the entire IT operations, be it support, maintenance, and including development and new enhancements to a third-party service provider who actually become the extended arm for the IT organization of that company. Which is really the managed services model, where we are talking about owning the entire portfolio, both application and infrastructure, and providing a spectrum of services from application management to development to enhancement. Why do we say it is managed innovation services? Because over a period of time, what we believe, while we bring in stability into their portfolio and drive cost reduction, savings, and productivity improvements, one of the key levers for us to bring in those benefits is to constantly introduce innovative methods and solutions. For example, bringing in automation, bringing in process automation, bringing in robotic process automation, bringing in some of the innovative solutions like accelerators that we would have developed as part of our Fulcrum Labs or Fulcrum One platform, and how can we leverage all of these to drive greater value within the organization in the managed services model. And then I think the last block in our entire portfolio is the big data and analytics hub, right? And I think all this ties in. So all the elements that we talked about, whether it is customer experience, whether it is the core system, whether it is the digital solutions, whether it is the legacy systems, at the end of the day, there's a whole lot of data that the organization is sitting on, which can be leveraged to drive powerful insights, which can be used to drive different actions, including transforming customer experience and improving operational efficiencies. So that is going to be pivotal in terms of how do we bring in value through analytics across the board or across the value chain, or the insurance value chain, right from product development to sales and marketing to risk management and underwriting to claims management and to customer servicing. So this is really what we believe is our overall proposition that we will take to the market, which we are calling as the Fulcrum House of Insurance. Next slide really talks about how we will structure these services across 3 towers. So as I mentioned, one tower will really focus on consulting, which is where we will provide our digital advisory services, help organizations understand what is their maturity level with respect to digital transformation and using digital technologies within their organization The second piece of consulting where we believe we can really help organizations to help them reimagine their customer experience, reimagine their customer journeys and design that entire experience for themselves. The second tower is where we believe services that will help us, that will give us scale in terms of the volume of business that we want to do with the customer. Clearly, managed innovation services, which I described to you in my previous slide, is a huge opportunity because that is what most organizations are wanting to do in terms of driving better efficiencies, reducing their costs, bringing about significant savings, wherein they want to completely outsource the entire portfolio to a third-party service provider. Then I talked about legacy modernization. How do I re-architect the existing systems, modernize the existing systems, or bring in new platforms? And when it comes to bringing in new platforms, can I help them as an organization to implement those services? For instance, we have core platforms like Duck Creek and Life Asia. We've deliberately looked at a smaller portfolio because we believe Duck Creek is something that is pretty prominent in the United States and as well as in UK, and Life Asia is more relevant from an Indian context. So we said here, this is where we will create competencies and centers of excellence which will help us to provide implementation services, integration services, and services around these platforms, these core insurance platforms. And the third tower is what I talked about. What are the innovative solutions that we are bringing to the table? The point solutions. So one is clearly the area of intelligent automation. So it's not just about robotic process automation, but how do we drive intelligence or how do we actually use artificial intelligence to optimize these processes? We will talk about this in greater detail in our subsequent sessions. Big data and analytics. I talked about fraud analytics. There are multiple use cases where analytics is really going to power organizations in terms of making them a data-driven organization where they can use actionable insights to deliver value and outcomes. And then there are different industry solutions across the value chain which are leveraging digital to the core, and where each of these processes in the value chain have been transformed, be it policy, be it claims, and whether it is life or property and casualty. And I did talk about the Fulcrum Innovation Lab, which will be an enabler for us in many of these value propositions that we take to the market. Just wanted to spend a few minutes on our whole focus on consult. I mean, as I mentioned to you, that we want to help organizations really assess themselves in terms of where they are on the digital transformation journey, right? And when I look at digital maturity or digital maturity in the context of digital transformation, there are essentially two dimensions. One is what we call as digital intensity, and the other is really what we call as digital culture. And both of these are extremely important to make this transformation, to enable this transformation. When I talk about digital intensity, there are three things that really kind of describe what digital intensity is. One is the use of digital tools and technologies or when it comes to interacting with our customers, our partners, our suppliers, our associates. The second is how do we use data within the organization for decision making? How do we change the current culture into a data-centric organization or a data-driven organization where data and insights coming from data and information are used for making decisions? And the third is really about digitization of the value chain within the insurance value chain, be it property and casualty, life, or healthcare. So how do we digitize core business processes which exactly become the backbone for either transforming customer experience or driving better operation efficiencies or even improving the business models. Right? So this is what defines digital intensity, and what goes hand in hand is what will enable this change. How will we go about implementing this change, which is where we bring in the digital culture piece. And digital culture, is governed by the fact that whether the organization has a strategy in place, a digital strategy in place, what is the vision for digital transformation. Of course, the more important things are really around what is the digital talent available within the organization. Is the dependency only on external vendors versus having their own digital talent? It could be a mix of digital natives and people who are getting reskilled in using digital technologies and tools. Second, how agile is the organization? How do we bring about cross-functional collaboration? How do we structure an organization which will facilitate fast ideation and adoption? And finally, the third piece is really culture of experimentation. How do we create a culture within the organization which believes in encouraging people to take risks, the fail fast culture? You fail, you learn, you scale. Right? And that's really what defines a digital culture. So these are the two axes which kind of come into play when we look at digital maturity. And in our context, when you look at this slide, we are really talking about three phases: assess, adopt, and accelerate. And this clearly, what you see in front of you is the journey that each organization goes through with respect to, in the digital transformation journey. And in each of these phases, we are looking at characteristics and indicators that will determine what phase are they, be it digital intensity or be it digital culture. I will talk more about digital intensity across these elements because that's where Fulcrum really brings its experience, capability, and credibility. And of course, we believe we will use an ecosystem or use our partner ecosystem to help us in bringing the change management piece that I talked about, which is the digital culture aspect. So quickly when you look at assess, you're saying there could be, or when you do the assessment, and obviously there are clear characteristics will tell us whether a customer is in an infant stage, right? This is really where we are talking about an organization which is, just heard about digital. They are doing a few things here and there. They probably just have a website or a portal, again, which may not be very interactive but static, right? But bulk of the focus is on really their legacy portfolio, right? It's their core system that is really powering most of their business processes. Then really comes the phase where organizations have started doing early experiments with digital. They've started playing around how they can deliver better experience to customers by having their whole websites, by reimagining their websites and portals, by introducing new channels like mobile, where customers can interact with their organization with ease. And these are really the early experiments. Again, they are in isolation. They may not necessarily be integrated with your backbone, which is your core platform or legacy systems. And then we enter into the next phase, which is saying, where are we digitally credible, right? I mean, here is where we are really looking at organizations investing significantly in reimagining their customer experiences, in digitizing their business processes. So, for example, really looking at how can we provide a seamless experience for customers across various channels? How can we look at customer behavior by understanding their purchase behavior, by understanding their social behavior, to introduce new products and services to them, right? And so these are areas where they start leveraging the digital tools and technologies, especially when it comes to interacting with their customers and their suppliers. And that's really where we are moving into the adopt phase. And then we are really talking about digital maturity. And digital maturity is really about all the three aspects of pervasive use of digital tools and technologies when it comes to interacting with customers, suppliers, associates, use of big data and analytics to become a data-driven organization. Their decision making is based on powerful insights that are drawn from this whole huge ocean of data, where whether it's fraud, whether it is when it comes to an insurance lapse, as I talked about, one of the biggest problems today is how do I predict when an insurance is going to lapse from a customer standpoint? And can I actually, before that, take actions in terms of ensuring that the customer doesn't act right and the insurance doesn't lapse? So one is to retain those customers, and two is also, can I win back some of these customers who have probably gone away, and maybe it's just about 2 months since the insurance lapsed, but can I again use interventions to bring them back? So this is where we are talking about using all facets of technology, data, and process to drive huge adoption and gaining maturity in the digital transformation phase. And finally, the whole the area of continuous improvement. How do I deliver more and more value? How do I innovate? How do I bring in new technologies? How can those new technologies be absorbed very easily? Whether it is AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, augmented reality, virtual reality, or for that matter, the whole platform business model, which is what most insurance companies are now looking at. How can they reinvent themselves in terms of business models? So clearly, when we go into an organization, we will have a full-fledged methodology and approach which will help us quickly assess using dipstick indicators and characters to say which phase is the organization in. And again, this is based on benchmark and baselines. And the idea is to help the organizations to say, hey, this is where you are, and this is what you need to do to move from infancy to credible, or credible to maturity. And that's where we bring in the other services that we have as part of our bouquet to enable that transformation from one level to the next. So that's really what our whole digital maturity assessment service portfolio, or you can say the framework around which our whole consulting services are being designed. And we'll talk about more in detail as we go into the next few sessions.